Hi there, welcome to Taurus-Some Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Taurus energy, and like usual we're going to do two rows. The top row is going to be what we'll call a high vibe Taurus energy. The bottom row is going to be what we refer to as a more worldly, shadowy energy. We all got a dualistic nature. We can all be tempted by our more worldly, immature, fearful, insecure, lustful, greedy, lazy nature, right? And sometimes we'd like to live our life differently, and we all have lessons to learn, and we're all at different phases of this process of learning lessons. And some people could be struggling within themselves right now. They might want to live life differently and look at life differently and do things differently. But because we have free will, when we choose this, that means we don't choose that. And, sometimes it means we got to change jobs, a friendship, a romantic relationship, or we're going to have better self-discipline within ourselves. And sometimes people are struggling within themselves. So we're going to kind of read it from that perspective. But there's other people in the world who are moving forward. They've finished the debate within themselves. They have seen the truth, because the truth sets us free. They've grown, they've healed, they've matured or something, and they're moving forward in life differently. And when some people move forward in life differently, there's some other people in their life who maybe aren't going to move forward in that way. And hopefully everybody wishes each other peace. But sometimes people don't like it, and sometimes we can have a hard time doing that because we might not keep spending our time doing certain things or interacting with people the way we used to interact. We'll see what comes out in the reading, but just to give you a general idea. And the thing is, some people are going with the flow where they're learning and growing and healing and maturing themselves over time. And some people don't want to do that because you have to deal with the truth. And some people want to stay in denial of the truth. And they don't want to see the truth about themselves. They don't want to see the truth about what manipulates them in the world, or people who manipulate them, or something, And we got to deal with the truth of that too. To see who are the people and way of living life that is more aligned with our truth, and what isn't more aligned with our truth. So the reason for the top row's reading is music. So I would look at that as creativity. It's the reason why the reading came out also. It does say music brings them closer to you. Certain songs remind them of just how special your connection to them is. Well, for some of you that could be true, but this is a general reading. I don't know anything about you and your life. So I would look at music as just creativity, what kind of motivates and inspires us. And we're all at different levels of what motivates and inspires us, what motivated and inspired us, and how we viewed relationships at, say, age 15 and age 18 was much different than what motivated and inspired us when we were 20 and 25. And that process continues throughout our life. Some people are motivated and inspired by different things than we are. The reason for the bottom row's reading is mixed signals. So it says that cloudy space between hot and cold. Some people are still juggling. Life is about learning these lessons to get clear about what our truth is. And sometimes we've become clear, I don't want to live my life that way, or be like that, or act like that. And other people, they're not still sure. They might still think they want to go do that. We all will repeat a certain pattern of a way of living life, because that's like where we're at in life, our maturity level, how we view life, what fears and insecurities we have, how much our lust or our greed or immature nature manipulates us. And everybody's on different places. And some people are moving forward in life differently because they've learned some lessons that some other people haven't in the world. High vibe energy is about being independent, learning how to fill your own cup, feeling stable and grounded within yourself, not letting your more worldly, shadowy, egoic, immature, blah, blah, blah nature kind of run your life. And you've acknowledged that you have that shadow nature, and you've probably learned some really hard lessons. That if you let your shadow nature in the driver's seat of your life, is going to run your life into the ditch, because you're going to go learn some hard lessons. And some people have already been there and done that, and it's like, I'm not doing it anymore. And some other people haven't learned those lessons, and everybody's got to learn some lessons the hard way. But we can all have some mixed feelings, because we can have people in our life and there's things we'd like to do and indulge in that can still kind of tempt us, or we just want those people to move forward with us and work together with us cooperatively in like a just and fair and loving way. But if we've already seen the truth, we're not on the same page. You know, maybe they do have some immature or shadowy ways of being that I just don't want to hang around them. Or, you know, they go in the friend category. But it can be challenging. Because if we keep repeating an old pattern of the past, then we don't have to face our fears about moving forward in life differently. So we can all be tempted to repeat an old pattern. Let's go look at the old pattern. Lustful desires. So that one does have like the devil and the angel, kind of like a mismatched relationship. We know they're not on the same page as us, but we'd like the relationship to work, and you know, we can all be tempted by these things of the world and kind of give up our dreams of maybe being in more just and fair and authentic and deep, meaningful relationships, and maybe settle for superficial relationships or abusive relationships or unhealthy relationships. Breakthrough, uprooting, power couple. So we've all been there. We were all hoping that some of the people that we could have been in a relationship with would, light bulb moment, see the truth, get out of their defensive nature, grow up, be more mature, be more just and fair, you know. Because we have this inner conflict. We would like it to work. If we get a job, a friendship, a romantic relationship, we'd like those things to work. We don't want to have to go get another one, you know? But sometimes we realize that, you know, with the uprooting and that being like a house, the foundation we operate our life from, and Taurus energy is about our philosophy of life. We can have a lot of things in common with people and we'd like to stay in a relationship with them, and we could have been in a relationship with them for a long time. And we get down to that core foundational thing that drives our life. And that can be different, you know. With the power couple, one person could want people to stay in the relationship because this is good for our ego and our image and our status, and this looks great. It works for me. But if they're more aligned with their more worldly, egoic, or self-nature, for them it might work out great. But if other people at a core foundational level, in their Taurus philosophy of life, that they're more driven and motivated by love and deep, meaningful relationships, that would truly be a power couple. It's kind of like what we love is different. What drives and motivates us is different. And we can all be tempted in it, in our more worldly, shadowy nature, because we want to be in jobs and relationships and friendships. We all like, you know, stability and security and enjoying some of the finer things in life and all the things benefits that can come from having a job and a friendship and a romantic relationship. But it's hard for people who are if they're in a mismatched relationship, to keep staying in a relationship with someone when you kind of are illuminated to the truth that the reason they might have gotten in the relationship, or the reason they might want to stay in the relationship, is more because it's good for their ego and their image. And that's kind of the driving factor, and it's not really love. And then it's kind of like, do you even love me? Why are we in this relationship? If it's more just for the status and the ego and the image, and that's what makes you happy, but that really ultimately isn't what drives me, am I willing to get out of this relationship? You can go find someone else who wants to be in a relationship with you more for those reasons, or work at this job because of the pay or the status or the image. I want to go be in jobs and friendships and relationships with people who I think are kind and just and fair and loving and nurturing and encouraging and aligned with my truth. So sometimes some people could now be in that situation and they could really be kind of struggling because the music being more like listening to your creative, inspired, fiery nature, you have to be bold and brave and confident. It's hard to give up those things of the world that we like, just safety and security and all those things, to listen to our intuition and not willing to not live our truth. So, well, some people are in the midst of this, some people are working through this, and we all have people in our life that even when, we're all growing and healing and maturing at different times, we got friends, we got family, we got coworkers, whoever, if everybody accepts that everybody is going kind of through this process and not everybody's going to stay the same as they were 5 years ago or 10 years ago, we have to accept that people are their own individual, independent people. And if we're willing to accept that with people, and we accept that people change and have different viewpoints, but we love them and we want them to be in our relationship, our life long term, and so long as everybody's treating everybody with respect and respecting everybody's free to live their life, so long as people are still at a core foundation being just and fair and loving, then we all kind of move forward together and we all keep going through these phases within ourselves, within the group dynamic, and we keep moving forward together. But there might be some people, that periodically there's some people in our life who don't want to move forward like that. Like they don't like it that other people have changed. Why are you being, again, high vibe energy is about becoming more independent, more authentically yourself, freeing yourself from some of the things that used to manipulate you. And sometimes some people don't like that because, again, if they are kind of more about the world and ego and image, if they see that people have healed or grown or matured in some way where they're not making their life about them, that person, or ego or image or indulgence or some sort, well then they kind of don't want to be in a relationship with you because it would maybe require them to align with their more hopeful, believing, loving, mature nature, self-disciplined nature, than their more worldly, immature nature, to whatever degree. And even though they could have inner conflict about it, if they know that's really not my truth, and I maybe don't like to step out of my comfort zone. I might like to live my life like this forever, and that would be maybe a more worldly Taurus energy, and Taurus is fixed sign energy. We all can have these ideas of what the dream life was and the dream relationship and how we view relationships and how we think is just and fair to treat people that we're friends with or that we're in a relationship with. And, shadowy Taurus can be a little stubborn and prideful. All of us can tap into that. And some people are like, this is the way I do view the world from a more worldly perspective. And I maybe don't think there is any other point. I don't want to become independent of the world. What do you mean? What would be the alternative? High vibe energy is believing there's a higher truth and justice to aspire to. And that things do, just like we were cave people and now we're not, along the path, human beings created all these things and people changed and people realized what did work, what didn't work. Other people could have been happy with situations. Other people weren't happy. And, if we're all going to work together, we have to accommodate people because sometimes the people who don't want things to change are the people who benefit from things not changing. And then there's other people that are like, well, I don't like the way this is. Even just back in the day when someone thought about indoor plumbing and outhouses instead of going into the woods to go pee. There'd have been some people that I have no problem with that. And other people like, well, I don't like it. There's going to be some people in the world who are going to be more bold and brave and creative and hopeful and believing and listen to their intuition Instead of maybe being stubborn or in their ego, unbudging, unflexible, you're supposed to do life like this. This is how I do life. You're not supposed to look at life any differently. You're not supposed to look at life from a higher perspective. You're not maybe even supposed to be independent of me. You're supposed to let me control you. You were supposed to make your life about my life. You're not supposed to be your own individual person with your own unique talent, skills, and interest or dreams. You're supposed to make your life all about me. We go from people who just, you don't like to go bowling all the time, and we like to go bowling all the time, and you want to go do something different, from something kind of simple like that to people who are kind of narcissistic and controlling. We got all sorts of people in the world that we deal with. So, well, we live our life in a certain way. We go do those things in the world that we think are going to make us happy. We got these lessons to learn. And then we're kind of illuminated that though I might like some of those things in the world that I was indulging in or pursuing, there's something about it that causes me a problem, And again, we come into all these different people in the world to help us get clear about our truth. And then we could kind of realize it's like learning a lesson we were meant to learn from that phase of life. And it could have been, oh wow, I was more codependent than I realized. I don't really maybe stand up for myself and love myself or believe in myself. And I got in these certain relationships, or I went and indulged in these certain things to make me feel better because I had a philosophy of life and how I viewed life. And I thought that was true. And I thought that was just and fair because we all think whatever stage of life we're at is a just and fair way to live life, or we wouldn't probably be doing it. And then, we just kind of get inspired to, my intuition is telling me there's something wrong here. And I've kind of realized, what was it, just like we did age 15, 18 to 21, when we're kind of getting closer to being like 18 years old, we kind of realize that I've learned everything I was meant to learn, and I totally love being like 15 years old. But, there's nothing new to learn here. And when we keep like resisting change, like, no, I am not going to uproot. No, I'm not going to be bold and brave and confident. Nope, I'm going to keep doing this. Well, it kind of gets worse and worse and worse, because the only reason we keep living our life a certain way, even though we kind of have learned everything we were meant to learn there, and it's kind of time for us to grow and change and mature ourselves and expand our perception of ourselves and the world around us and face our fears, it will get more and more oppressive, confining, limiting, restrictive, and toxic because we're not going with the flow of life, which is, you've been there, you've done that. Go sift through the things, find out what are the good things that would be beneficial in your foundation moving forward. But then kind of what things do we need to let go of that we've kind of outgrown and maybe was kind of appropriate for that stage of life and age of life. But, it's time for us to kind of grow up and mature ourselves some, and then we go to the next phase of life. But there's some people in the world, once we kind of get through those younger years in life, then we pop out to be an adult and we blend in with all the other adults in the world, and we can pick anywhere in the spectrum. Wow, do I want to be in the group of people and motivated and inspired to really be, I don't know, gung-ho? Or, I'm a little more laid back and I'm not, I don't need it all. We just find ourselves somewhere on the spectrum. And some people could have thought, when I get to a certain stage of life, even if that's age 25, I'm good. Whatever fears, insecurities, pride, ego, ways of viewing a relationship, I don't plan to deal with any of those things or change any of them. And they're like people who do stay like stuck and resistant to change, and maybe because that's how people in their life or people they grew up with, that was all the further they kind of looked at life. And maybe they weren't inspired to listen to their intuition, or, you know, it can be about conforming your life to the world. And people don't like to step outside the box and listen to their own intuition or creativity, because what would people say? People might judge me. I'll just make my life about conforming to the world, and you should too. But other people don't make their life, and they could have thought they would have, but it can be just as unexpected to people in the relationship that, I thought I would be happy living my life like this forever, but I'm really kind of not. And then I think loving people offer love and encouragement to the people. They're trying to motivate and inspire them also by how they've kind of freed themselves from some things that manipulated them, and how they have kind of healed or grown or learned how to love and believe in themselves, or got more balance within themselves, or realized how some of the things that they were doing were kind of making them feel stuck, not growing to their full potential, not facing their fears. And then they try to offer love and encouragement to the people they're in relationships with them to move forward differently, to free themselves from some things. And some of those people might be like, I'm not ready yet, even. So let's go look at the top row. Plotting, divine intervention, grace and beauty, and the solitude card. So I kind of look at the beauty and grace card as an empress energy, which the feminine figures in tarot, like the empress, can talk about how we think and feel. And we all have that life spark within us of wanting to give birth to new things. If you were to equate a human being to like an apple tree doesn't have any choice. If it's meant to grow to 35 feet, it will grow to 35 feet. And regardless of the conditions it's in, even if it's planted in a shade area, it will bend to go find the light. It's like, doesn't have free will, But if you were to equate a human being to an apple tree, a person could say, I'm like 15 feet tall, I've got 100 apples, I'm good. Well, why aren't you kind of growing to your full potential of 35 feet, and you could have 1,000 apples, and you could freely give to other people? And some people would be like, why? As a human being, it takes work and effort for me to grow to my full potential. It doesn't just happen naturally. I do have to keep uprooting myself, like shedding layers of my worldly nature, my immature nature, my self-centered nature, my prideful nature, my stubborn nature. I have to keep shedding these layers of myself to keep growing to my full potential. And I could want to turn my back to that. I'm good. I'm just going to make my life about these things. I'm sure I'll be happy. I have free will. I don't want to do it. And that's true. They do have free will, and they don't have to do it. They just need to find someone who views life the way they view life, who is willing to make their life about whatever stage of life these people want to stay in. And it's the same way with relationships. People who say, grew up in the 1960s or the 1950s with the Ozzie and Harriet, and, women wearing dresses and high heels at home, and women not having careers or something like that, and people not being able to vote, all these things that have changed in the world. There's some people, it's kind of like a time warp like that. Like, no, I have this certain way of relationships, and the way I view relationships, and the way I view the workplace, and the way I view friendships. And sometimes it's kind of more about them. That's what kind of more shadowy worldly nature is. Some people haven't learned how to play nice with others. Some people are more about themselves. I want to be bossy. I want to be controlling. I want to be irresponsible. I think people should indulge me in my more immature ways of being. And they just need to find someone, or they're more materialistic or self-centered or fearful or codependent or controlling, whatever way it is. They just need to find someone who's willing to indulge them in that way. And some other people are like, some people are leaving and some people have already left. You know, we all pick and choose kind of who we want to hang out with, and we look at people to see kind of and get to know them to see what kind of traits and characteristics they have to decide if we want to be in a relationship with them. And with the plotting card, and that's like a chessboard there, you know, sometimes we could realize that people are kind of living more from their mind than their heart. And maybe using the gifts they were given, our creative nature, were gifts given to us, so we're not just a machine or like an animal. We were given our emotional nature, our intellect, our charm, our imagination, our creativity, our sexuality. You might know some people who try to use those things in a shadowy way. They plot on trying, they're not aligned really with their hopeful believing nature, but they try to manipulate people who really are like hopeful and believing and loving. If I were to be in a relationship with you, I'd look like I have changed and I'm grown and I've healed and I've matured and I'm in a power couple. Because just being in a relationship with someone who's loving and nurturing and warm and encouraging and supportive, isn't that what people want? Makes them look like they're that type of person. I'm aligned with high vibrational energy. I'm not bossy. I'm not controlling. I'm not egotistical. I'm not self-centered. I'm not just materialistic. But they could be. You know. Sometimes people just wear a false mask. And they're really operating from their shadow nature, trying to present themselves as harnessing high vibe Taurus energy, like they're a pillar of society and they act with character and integrity. They really walk the talk. But that can just be a persona they kind of create. And that could be how they view life too. They could think everybody does that nobody's really believes in love. That nobody really, you know, it's all this facade that people put on to get in relationships with people so they have the status and the image and these things to make them look like they're victorious and successful in the world. And sometimes that means being with someone who is that type of person, more so than they are anyway, and because it's good for their ego and their image. Especially if they previously did some things or people kind of viewed them as kind of shadowy in some way, then it makes them look like they changed. Look who I got in a relationship with. You know, look who I'm hanging out with. Look where I got a job at. I'm not that same person I was before. I've changed. But that's people trying to make it look like they changed without really doing the inner work within themselves to really be someone who harnesses emotionally and how they think and feel Empress energy from love. That really have done this work, because the Empress energy is Libra Taurus energy. Libra is represented by the scales of justice, Taurus Earth sign energy, putting in work and effort. They're still out of balance, more about themselves or the world or defensiveness or whatever else. But they just try to present themselves as these people that they've put in this work and effort just like you did. But it's just an illusion. And that's when divine intervention, something happens because God knows the truth of people's intentions. And they know that the people who really are ready to give birth to something new, aligned with going with the flow of the universe, who is in the flow of the universe and who isn't. And it will stop the high vibe people from giving birth to the things they were meant to give birth to in the world if they keep staying in this kind of relationship dynamic that's a mismatched relationship dynamic. And that's, you know, the divine uses all sorts of things to try to get us to listen to our intuition. Books, movies, music, looking at other people in the world that is like, I kind of feel like I might be putting in a lot of work and effort to try to get someone who really, I'm starting to see, if I didn't see it at the very beginning, that they're kind of defensive, or they're kind of more about ego and image, or they're kind of bossy or controlling, or kind of immature, you know? And then it's like, ding, 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 you know? Why do I get in relationships with people who seem to have certain traits and characteristics that don't really seem to be kind of more on the same page as me? And that, again, shadowy energy can be where we're repeating a pattern, and we'll keep repeating a pattern until we see the truth of it. And that can be a pattern for some people. Instead of getting in relationships with people who treat me the way I treat them, because that could be out of your comfort zone, because you're not used to that, and you're used to kind of offering love and encouragement to people who might not be as open to love as you are. And that can be a pattern too, until we kind of realize everybody, you know, Taurus energy is like the Supreme Court judge in our head, and we have our dualistic nature, and they're like the attorneys inside of our head arguing with ourselves. No, we should do this. No, we should do that. And it debates back and forth within ourselves. And then we write like a law in our head, in our Taurus energy, of what has been declared as the law of the land. And part of that could have gotten kind of like imprinted upon us. You know, we grow up in families, we grow up in neighborhoods and all that stuff, and communities, and we kind of get, imprinted isn't the word I'm looking for, but I can't think of what it is. Kind of like indoctrinated into, this is how you should view life, and this is the role you should play in people's life, and this is the role I play in people's life, and, you know, this is the right way to do things. And, you know, we can all get into that routine instead of really listening to our own intuition, or even questioning if it's really just and fair. But what's really just and fair is to learn to love ourselves. That would be high vibe Empress energy. And I think it is the hardest lesson to learn. You can be a very loving, giving, nurturing person, but to let someone treat you that way, that can be hard. So in a way, it's kind of like you reject loving yourself. Oh no, not me. No, I give to these people. People don't love me. And that can be some of our own wounding that we had dealing with some people in our life that weren't very just and fair and loving and giving. And we can be repeating a pattern of trying to get people who have some of those traits and characteristics to love us, because in our ego, we want to win, and we want those people to like validate our worth and value, and we want to convert them. It's like, you know what? It makes me think of like Jesus and the disciples when they went to go spread the good news. There is not a story in the Bible, I don't think, of Jesus or the disciples crying and wailing at people's feet. Why don't you want to align with us? Why don't you choose love? Why don't you love me? They said, I offer you peace and love. And if the people were receptive to it, the people got to know them. And so long as the people treated them in a just and fair way, like they were treating them, they got along. And if they didn't, they probably didn't spend as much time with those people, because they know those people have free will. And in their free will, if they're choosing to not be more just and fair and treat people with love and respect, they got some lessons to learn, and God's going to keep working on them. We keep, you know, it's better to just treat people with kindness and respect, but I'm going to keep my distance from you. If there's some people that are in kind of some shadowy energy, no need to fan the flames by kind of being an ugly energy with them. You can be firm, you can be righteously angry, but I don't think it does any good, and it could be very detrimental. And I don't really think there's a point, to a degree, of telling people what you find shadowy about them. Just, I don't think we're really on the same page. And, you know, something, you know, you can kind of figure that out for yourself. But because it could just get you in an argument. They might know that they have these shadowy traits and characteristics, and if they're not admitting it and acknowledging it, it's like trying to argue with a brick wall. You know, if they saw the truth, they'd speak the truth. If they don't, it's a waste of your breath. It's like, you know, I wish you peace and joy, but I just don't think this is the right relationship for me. I think we have different goals and motivations, and, you know, I wish you peace. And so this divine intervention, God can use other people in the world to try to even tempt those people away from being in a relationship with you. And initially we can get really mad at the third parties, you know, if it's their family member, a friend, even work, the world, but other love interests. God is using those people to get us to see the truth, that some of the people we're in relationships with are not the people that we think they are. And it's trying to get us to see through the deception, so we could kind of look at the plotting card as like a 7 of swords. What they're driven and motivated by isn't what we're driven and motivated by. And they might have some issues they don't want to see the truth of that we've seen the truth of. And as long as they're in denial of the truth, as long as we stay in relationship with them, like more like a dating or romantic relationship, they want us to stay in denial of the truth too, and keep letting whatever those things are that manipulate them be like a third party in the relationship, because they don't want to deal with the truth of it. And it could be they're prideful, they're egotistical, they do live more from their mind than their heart. They don't let their more authentic, creative, hopeful, believing nature out to play in the world. They keep that locked inside, looking out through the eyeballs where their defensive, egoic nature runs our life. And God wants us to see that. So we could kind of look at, well, just this divine intervention could be many things. It could be something, again, that we read, a movie, something we hear on the radio. You know, God can use so many things, and maybe God is the one that decides. I think we really need to kind of lift the veil so they are enlightened to the truth. I think they're ready. But we as human beings, we can keep seeing the light bulb and the light over and over and over again. No, 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 no. And odds are it will get worse and worse and worse. You know, some people that, you know, if they're bossy and controlling, they'll become more bossy and controlling. If they're using drugs or alcohol to make them feel better in the world than doing some of their own inner work, that'll probably get worse. If people are more about ego and image and wanting attention or money, that will be like an addiction that gets worse and worse. Enough is never enough, because they're looking outside of themselves or to other people to be the answer to their own inner conflict. And that isn't where they should be looking. That is the solitude card. That we have to realize that if we keep living more from our mind than our heart, thinking we're so smart and pride comes before the fall, it's going to keep stopping us with the divine intervention from giving birth to the things that we want, which is, the solitude card would be like peace. And feeling creative and inspired and passionate and confident within ourselves. And so then, you know, things will happen in our life. Divine uses all these different things to try to get us to see the truth. It's like, you're not ready to go to the next stage of life because you keep thinking maybe like you're the boss, you know, and you have some lessons you need to learn. Get out of your head and look at life from a higher perspective. That would be like high vibe, 7 of Swords. Step back and put life in perspective. You know, we can get so caught up like, oh my gosh, I want these things. I have this maybe inner conflict and I want these things, God, and I'm going to grab the steering wheel and I'm going to go try to get those things. Well, what's driving us to go get those things? Fear, insecurity, lust, greed, codependency. Is it love? That until we step back put life in the big perspective, I'm probably going to live 80 years. Must I have those things in my life right now today? Must I even have those things in my life this year? You know, maybe I can chillax. Maybe I could take some time to detach myself from some things in my life to really get acquainted with myself. Align with my more creative, inspired, intuitive nature and what are my dreams, and work through some of my mental conflict and my emotional confusion and get clear about my own truth. And then it's kind of like, okay, so I need to look at life from a higher perspective. What do I want to manifest in my life? What are the things I have been trying to manifest in my life? How did I act and go about things? How did some of the people I got in relationships with, how did I act and how they go about things? What have I learned from this whole thing about other people and about myself? Did I listen to my intuition when I did some of those things, or was my intuition screaming in my face and eventually it got drowned out because I refused to listen? And I think our intuition was given to us as a gift. And, and then we do this work to love ourselves and get balance within ourselves. And we offer ourselves love and compassion and forgiveness for the mistakes we've made and the lessons we've had to learn. And we offer love and compassion and forgiveness to the other people in our life because they're just on this journey of learning life lessons too. And some of them have learned more than others. And they are the way they are. It really, a lot of it doesn't have anything to do with us. We can only take responsibility for how we could have contributed to some of those things going left, but they have their own share of the responsibility too. And then it's like, if I've learned certain ways of being I don't feel proud of within myself, and that's an awful thing, to deceive ourselves and not feel proud of ourselves. And High Vibe Taurus is learning these lessons and growing and maturing and healing ourselves to act with more character and integrity as time goes by, so we can be proud of ourselves, that who we present ourselves in the world is a true reflection of who we are. Working through these issues, growing and healing and maturing ourselves, so who we present ourselves in the world isn't a lie. We're not trying to deceive and manipulate people. And we take this time alone to go within. And so this card, of course, would remind me of the Virgo Hermit card. And the Virgo Hermit doesn't carry an axe to go in there and chop us up and chop everyone else up into itty-bitty awful pieces. It goes in with the lantern of light, which the light is like compassion and forgiveness. Which makes me kind of think of that Bible verse. When I was a child, I thought like a child, I acted like a child, and when I grew up, I put away my more childish ways. We're perpetually like children learning how to walk in the world. There's going to be so many lessons, and there's so many layers to our, just when we think, oh my gosh, I have figured out this game of life. And then we go to that next phase of life. Whoops, here's some more fears and insecurities and kind of ways of being that we maybe hadn't dealt with yet before. And it's all trying to get us, I think, to see that love is the answer. Keep offering love and compassion to ourselves. Do this work to maintain balance within ourselves so we don't tip out of balance, indulging ourselves in poor behavior, indulging other people in poor behavior. Love is supposed to be just and fair. And we need to do that within ourselves. Maintain balance within ourselves. Let our loving nature be driving our life. Let our shadow nature, our more immature nature, sit in the back seat, and we temper it like we would a child. That's okay, honey. We are going to get these things we want. I can hear you back there screaming. But we're going to go about it in a way that we can be proud of. And we've already done some of those things that you're suggesting, and it didn't work out the way we wanted. So this time, we're getting out of our ego, and we're going to adhere to a higher truth and justice. And we're going to listen to our intuition this time. And we're going to be more bold and brave and confident and creative and inspired to listen to our intuition. And also, that's what you're trying to give birth to, is other people who are in that energy with you, and seeing which people in your life don't want to do that inner work within themselves to bring things to the light, speak the truth, act in justice and fairness and love. Who has learned those lessons and who hasn't? Who's still more operating from their worldly, prideful, or defensive nature, or self-interest ego nature? And who has learned these lessons? Who's on the same page that I'm at right now? Okay, let's go see. What's coming up? That's some of the people who harness some high-vibe Taurus energy. What could be coming up for them that they don't necessarily see coming? Oh shoot, I had my deck upside down, but everything serves a purpose. So the Ten of Pentacles, all these cards are in reverse. The Ten of Pentacles, the Page of Pentacles, the Two of Swords, the Ten of Swords, the Strength card, the Knight of Swords. And the reason these all came out like that is because of the Ace of Swords. You got clear about what your truth was and wasn't. And there, previously you could have aligned with these energies and people in your life in a more worldly, shadowy way, and you're no longer doing that, and you've cut that out of your life, and you've been illuminated to the truth that that's not my truth. And I'm starting to think, seems like just lately with tarot readings, that maybe are more in our fire nature. There's all these things we kind of want to indulge in the world. But I'm starting to think that maybe our more high vibe fire nature might be kind of the last one to come on board, because we have our mind and our emotions. Of course, we deal with those all the time and things like that, and the world. But our more creative, inspired, intuitive, hopeful, believing, more bold, brave, confident nature of self, that could maybe be, I'm thinking, like the last one to kind of come on board. If we want to get to like Emperor, Empress energy, you know, in tarot we have the pages, and we have the knights, then we have the kings and the queens, then we get to the Emperor, Empress energy, and at the top, the High Priestess, Hierophant, Taurus energy. You know, if we're really going to be someone who tries to walk the talk, put what we preach into action, we could also look at the Solitude card as like a Five of Pentacles card. We have, which is Taurus energy, we have to detach from these old ways of viewing life, or viewing ourselves, or whatever, and learn lessons in life. And if we're willing to humble ourselves to admit that I had some lessons learned, I really thought that was something that I wanted to hold on to, and I wanted to live my life that way, and that was my philosophy of life, or those people are who I wanted to hold on to. We have to be willing to go through this period of feeling left out in the cold, because sometimes we are detaching from romantic relationships, or keeping our distance from certain family members, or not going to kind of keep indulging someone in a friendship or in a workplace. And we could go through this period of feeling alone. But do I want to keep staying in something where I'm seeing it is more about them? You know, would I rather at least have peace and solitude and justice and fairness in my life, and, you know, just go enjoy my life and enjoy people in the world who, you know, are being nice and kind, than put up with people who I could feel are trying to manipulate me or control me or being abusive in some way, you know? So let's go look at these cards in the upright. Well, for one, the Ten of Pentacles and the Page of Pentacles can be that we were in our more worldly, immature nature or codependent nature. We still had been investing in not wanting to see the truth about some things we should let go of, our own more egoic defensive nature to the truth, and maybe tempering our own fears and insecurities for our foundation to invest in listening to our intuition, putting an end to being strong about people who are defensive to the truth, and for us to see the truth that we need to end those relationships with those people because they've been telling us over and over and over, I am not going to do life the way you want to do it. That is not my truth. But we can have a hard time because we don't want to end it. I wanted to have a more close relationship with that person in my life, all my life. If they're a friend, a family, or a romantic interest. But, everybody is where they're at. And they could have their own issues that they need to work through. And sometimes we need to be a leader in the world of showing other people, maybe they have people that are doing that to them that they're not willing to stand up to, that are kind of controlling them, and they're not willing to move forward in truth and love because they're not willing to stand up to the things within themselves and people in their life that tell them, no, you can't move forward. You shouldn't live your life like that or whatever, And so by you being an example in the world, if you keep letting those things manipulate you or other people or whatever it is, then I'm going to show you how it's done. I let go of this foundation, and I'm not going to keep investing in it because I'm not codependent on it. And I'm no longer in denial of the truth. I see how this sabotages and backstabs me. And I'm done tempering myself in a way for people who are defensive to the truth. I'm going to get out of my ego about it. People who want to change. I can't change people. I can offer people love and encouragement, but they have free will to align with whatever they want to align with. And if their truth is different than my truth, then I wish you peace. I'm moving on. And you can live your life the way you want and with the people that you want. And, I'm going to want to stay within myself in the energy of balance and peace and love. And if there's people in my life that could be doing things that are toxic or hurtful or unkind, until they see the truth of it, though it causes me some inner conflict, I will wish them peace and I will stay independent of them. Block out the people in the world that try to maybe cause me inner conflict. People who love me shouldn't want me to be in conflict. People who love me shouldn't want me in fear and insecurities, and they shouldn't try to control me. People who are loving offer love. People who are just and fair are just and fair. People who are motivated to act with character and integrity do. And the people who don't is kind of like, I've seen through the illusion. I don't think you are who I thought you were. Or maybe you were at one time, but something happened. You could have uprooted what used to be a core foundation in your life for something else. And everybody can get tempted by things. And there's no guarantee when people are going to get tempted to indulge their more immature nature, probably when it would require them to really do some inner work. And that does take work and effort. And some people are like, I think I'll be happy not doing that. You can go. I think I'll be happy continuing to live my life like this. Even though it might cause them some inner conflict, they have the free will choice. Do I act in truth and love, and justice and fair, or am I going to be more about thinking acting in these unfair, unjust, prideful, stubborn, manipulative, trying to get you in your ego, trying to get you in competitive energy or something. And that's when people are like, that's trying to manipulate me. You're not acting in a just and fair and loving way. And I don't want to be in relationships with people who choose to act that way instead of being willing to deal with the truth of the situation. And some people, because you did become illuminated to the truth that they weren't who they said they were, some of those people could have been deceptive and manipulative and spread lies about you to try to make people think that, I don't know, something negative about you and confuse people about the truth of who they are. Because if they are kind of harnessing shadowy Taurus energy, it can be they're all about their ego and their image and their reputation. And you saw through the illusion, but they don't want people to believe you. So they do these things to try to confuse people about the truth of who you are. And then they try to get people to look at them. It's like the devil over here, trying to get people to stay focused on them because like, oh, well, no, but I'm this certain type of person and you've known me a long time and you know all these things or blah, blah, blah about me of how I live my life that I've presented myself as being. And it can cause other people inner conflict too, because you might be different, but maybe you just had differences, but maybe they could start to think that, you know, I kind of don't think that person was quite telling the truth because you don't seem to maybe be doing all the things that they say that you're doing. You know, as you're doing this in your life, there's going to be other people doing this. Probably not the shadowy people you recently detached from, but just there's other people in the world that at any given moment in our life, we can have people who are being in relationships with people at workplaces and whatever, where people are acting kind of in shadowy ways. And some people are like, yeah, I'm not putting up with that shit, you know, or eventually they do. And they get out of those things too. And then they're also listening to their intuition, going out in their world and just seeing what happens. You know, it's not trying to force the wheel of fate to go in their favor. I'm just going to live my life. And I believe God knows what I want to manifest. God wants me to learn more lessons. So the next lesson needs to appear. And I'm just going to keep investing in, you know, learning these lessons in life, listening to my intuition. And when my intuition tells me, that it's time, then that's when I will take action on those new things in my life. What's coming up for some people who might harness a more worldly or shadowy Taurus energy right now? Okay, we have some cards coming out that aren't showing themselves. But the reason is because of the Lover's card. So whenever people are acting kind of shadowy in a relationship, you know, it's like they deceive themselves. Oh, no, they won't leave. Oh, no, they love me. I know they love me. I'm using the love that they have for me to manipulate them. Or I don't think they love and believe in themselves. I don't think they want to leave this job or this friendship or this relationship. They'd end up feeling kind of out in the cold. Just like, that's why I don't do it. So I'm sure they'll stay. But what they don't see coming is that there's people that eventually are going to quit working with them. That people are going to cut them out of their life because they love themselves. And they did not see that coming. Nine of Swords, Knight of Pentacles, and the Strength card. Because when they're in relationships with people who are trying to like be unhealthy in some way or immature or bossy or controlling or whatever, you know, they've kind of been up in a mental prison in the situation, like, does this, and if you're 9 swords, there's a maximum of 10. If you're 9 swords up in your head, it's kind of like, do I love them? Do they love me? Why are we in this relationship? And they've been putting in work and effort to be strong, and they've been trying to offer these more worldly, shadowy people resources and love and encouragement to get them to temper their own fears and insecurities and egoic nature. And eventually it's like realizing, love is a free will choice, and I'm not going to be up in my head about it anymore. I'm done. And the other people don't understand how some of the high vibe people in their life did this, because they don't understand it. And what the high vibe people did is they're now harnessing these energies in a more high vibrational way. They went within. Why am I so stressed out? Get out of my ego about it. I can want people to love me. I can love other people. I can't make other people change. And that's me having to get out of my ego about it. They have free will. We can sit there all day. God's like trying to tell us, you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave. And we're like, no, God, change them. I want to be in a relationship with them. Change them. And God's like, they got free will. You should leave. And they're like, no, I want them. Change them. It's like, God's like, I gave them free will. You need to respect they have free will. If they were motivated and inspired to change, they would. But for some reason, they're not. And until they learn some lessons in life, they're probably going to keep investing in their pride and ego. So we need to get out of our pride and ego. We're not the boss. And everybody does have these lessons to learn. And you could have learned some of them about how to play nicely with others, and some other people haven't. And we get out of our ego about it. And it's like, oh, okay, so if my dream can't come into reality here, I temper my ego and like, oh, I'm not in charge and I'm not the boss. So I need to work through my own mental conflict about it. Keep believing in my dreams. I thought this was it, but it wasn't. So I need to quit staying in denial of it. And I need to go with the flow and probably distance myself from some people. And then I need to give myself the things that I wish other people would have given me, and love and believe in myself, and be bold and brave and confident within myself, and work on becoming that type of person, and kind of just go with the flow. See how things go. And while you're doing that, it gives the other people a chance to think about what they want to do. And then probably, some of the people in our life who weren't in such shadowy energy, those people could be like, you kind of changed and whatever, but everybody does, and I still like you, and I still love you, and I want to keep being in a long-term relationship with you. And everybody kind of goes with the flow, because when one person in a dynamic changes, it changes the whole dynamic, and everybody adjusts, just like children growing up, and they don't want to be parented anymore, and we have to adjust to that, and they're adjusting to us being different as time goes by in life, and we work through this with people. And as time goes by, there's complete, all these different ways of being in relationships that, have kind of went away, because we all have learned these lessons, and maybe everybody's starting to go more with the flow, and listen to their intuition. And some of the people who some people are just going to keep repeating an old pattern. They might like to be in relationships with people who don't ever temper their fears or their insecurity or their ego or their more worldly nature. They maybe didn't want those people in their life anymore anyway. Maybe they were trying to get rid of some people. When we have some people acting poorly in a relationship, it might be because they want you to go. But they want it to be that you left, and then they can play the poor, pitiful me person. because they're about their ego and their image. Oh no, I was trying to help them, but blah blah blah. you know. Another thing they might not see coming is there could be someone else. There's always other people in the world who might want to be in a relationship with them. But that person could be hiding that they harness these energies in a high vibe, or they don't know it. If they get in a relationship with another loving person, this whole scenario is going to play out again, and they're going to be like, damn, why didn't that work out? Why do all these people keep listening to their intuition? Why do these people keep healing and growing and maturing? I don't plan to do that. Well, eventually, if not right now, they might get in a relationship with someone who's hiding that they do harness these energies in a more worldly, shadowy way. That they have a lot of stress and anxiety about love too, because you can get hurt doing love, and they don't want to do love either. And they're kind of more about their ego and their image and their defensive nature, or indulging in whatever they like to indulge in. Some of these people right now could be getting in a new relationship with someone, or are in a relationship with someone who they don't realize yet is just like them. They too could be presenting a persona. Oh no, I'm a loving, just, and fair, and emotionally mature person. I'm not defensive. I'm not prideful. I'm not egotistical. I'm not defensive. I'm not more about me. I don't try to manipulate people in a relationship. They could have someone who's as good at wearing a social mask as they are. And if whatever ways these people could have been kind of unhealthy in a relationship, the other person could have their own kind of evenly unhealthy ways of being in a relationship. Like someone could be bossy, another person could be lazy. Or they could get in a relationship with someone who kind of mirrors back to them the kind of person they are. And wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall when they say to the person or friends or families of theirs the exact same things that used to come out of your mouth maybe about them, or that you've thought about them? And you kind of wonder, when those words come out of their mouth, do they remember that people used to say that exact same thing to them? Could you stop doing that? Or I think you're being like this. And they're like, no, I'm not, And then they get in a relationship and they have those same words come out of their mouth. And then sometimes, some people in our life, it is more of these things, and they got some growing up and maturing to do. And like the rest of us, they're going to go indulge in those things that they think will make them happy. And then some of those things don't work out the way they want. And then they're kind of confused about maybe why it didn't work out. But again, some of these people keep having relationships that don't work out, but they never see how they contributed to those relationships not working out. Some of them are very with the devil kind of over here. Some of people could be very full of themselves, and the way they view life is that people should want to be in a relationship with me. I love me. I'd be in a relationship with me. And then they get in relationships with people and they kind of try to present themselves as high vibe, but really they're just all about themselves, and they want the people they're in a relationship with to make it all about themselves. And kind of, people can be patient for a long time in a relationship, and they can put a lot of work and effort into a relationship, not seeing the truth. Partly maybe because we don't want to see the truth in the Seven of Swords. Because if I did kind of let myself see the truth, then I'd have to take action on it, and I don't want to take action on it. So people can kind of tolerate bad bosses and bad friends and bad romantic relationships for a long time because they keep hoping it'll work. And eventually people kind of just see the truth. Yeah, I don't want to be here anymore. And then they leave. But if they do get in a relationship with someone who's like themselves, initially they could think, oh my gosh, we are repeating this old pattern. Neither one of us is going to step out of our comfort zone. Neither one of us is going to grow or heal or mature ourselves. But that is kind of a stagnant way of living their life. And I think their high vibe nature within them that would like them to be more creative, inspired. It's like they've got their high vibe nature sitting in the back seat while they're more fearful or defensive or materialistic or addicted nature drives their vehicle. And their loving nature is always in the back seat trying to get a voice in the Supreme Court of their own head. I think when our more loving nature is in the driver's seat of our life and our shadow nature is in the back seat, we can kind of temper that within ourselves because our more loving nature is running our life. But when our more shadowy nature is living our life, for one, we know we're probably being a little deceptive, manipulative, immature. Things aren't kind of, our life's going a little bit in the ditch some. And it can just cause us this cognitive dissonance because we think of ourselves one way, but our life seems to be telling us that the fact of the matter is our life is like this. And it's like, well, how can that be? Because I view myself like this. Yes, but you took all these actions, so now you're living your life like this. It's like, that's causing me some cognitive dissonance. You know, and if people ever want to deal with the truth of it, they will, and some people never will. You know, people got free will. For all the people, which I kind of think they're evenly dispersed, could all the people become loving people one day? Yeah, but I think God kind of keeps it in balance so it doesn't tip too much into shadow. Can things get tipped out of balance and things go wrong? Yeah, but God works with all the other people to get it back in balance, I think. My own philosophy, maybe just the way I like to look at life. But if things are supposed to be balanced, I think God tries to keep things in balance. And again, things could be balanced if all the people became loving people because the shadow nature is still there. It's just in the back seat. But otherwise, I think probably 50% of the people in the world are over here, 50% are over here. And most of the people are kind of just going back and forth or kind of in the middle. And then we have the extreme edge of like Jesus and Mother and Teresa over there and like narcissists and murderers and all those people over there. But if the bell curve's correct, the bulk of the people are not too far from the middle of the dividing line of, and then there's a lot of people still going back and forth. But there are going, for every person that's a high vibe person, that I have picked my path, you know, I'm not aligned with my more worldly, egoic nature. I do let love and intuition kind of be the deciding factor in my life. There's going to be an exact opposite person on the other side of you, probably. And there's some people who are going to live their life about that. That's what they want, and they have the free will to do that. I think God wants everybody to be free from what enslaves them. That would be what the devil's about, is those things that enslave us and imprison us. But people have free will. They're just going to have other people who distance themselves from them because they find them to maybe be superficial or shallow or manipulative. So there you go, Taurus energy. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.